Good morning. My name is Scott Lorey, L-O-R-E-Y. I am the Legislative Director for the Adirondack Council. The Adirondack Council is a 501c3 not-for-profit environmental organization dedicated to ensuring the ecological integrity and wild character of New York's Adirondack Park. The Adirondack Park is the largest park, state or federal, in the continental United States. The 6 million acre park is a mixture of public and private lands. Acid rain continues to destroy the forests, waters, and wildlife of the Adirondack Park. The high elevation red spruce forests have been destroyed. Sugar maple tree growth has been stunted. More than 700 lakes are too acidic to support their native fish populations. New York State has already acted to reduce its own emissions. In 1984, New York became the first state in the nation to address acid rain by passing a law eliminating the emissions from its own power plants. In 2003, New York ratcheted down its in-state emissions again, with its toughest in the nation regulations requiring steeper reductions in sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides. Unfortunately, New York cannot protect the Adirondack Park alone. Pollutants from outside of our state are carried by prevailing winds and fall in the Adirondacks as acid precipitation. 6.5 years ago, the Adirondack Council testified at 3 simultaneous hearings held by the EPA in Philadelphia, Chicago, and Raleigh-Durham on the Interstate Air Quality Rule, which was later known as the Clean Air Interstate Rule, or CARE. We supported that rule, although we believed it could be improved. Today, we are back with similar sentiments for the new transport rule. We appreciate the efforts of the EPA to quickly respond to the D.C. Circuit Court's 2008 ruling and propose the transport rule. We are also happy that several of our concerns from 2004 have been addressed, including further reductions in the levels of pollution, shrinking the timelines for reduction, and dealing with the glut of bank allowances that have accumulated over the last 15 years. We support strong nitrogen emission reductions on a year-round basis. In the Adirondacks, nitrogen builds up in the winter snowpack, and with the spring snowmelt contributes heavily to the episodic acidification of our lakes and streams. There is substantial science that the saturation of nitrogen in the soils has played a role in the depletion of the essential minerals from forest soils in much of the northeastern United States. A study published by the Hubbard Brook Research Foundation in 2003 entitled Nitrogen Pollution from Sources to the Sea provides details about the impact of nitrogen pollution. We urge EPA to use a stronger baseline for the NOx emissions than the 1997 NAC standard. At a minimum, EPA should use the more stringent 2008 standard and update the transport rule when the new standard is put in place, hopefully later this year, although that remains uncertain. The timetables proposed for the implementation of this new rule are aggressive, but capable of being met. We strongly recommend against extending these timelines. Many companies have already installed scrubbers or other pollution control equipment in order to meet the requirements for the first phase of CARE. As the second phase of CARE is scheduled to go into effect in 2015, moving up the deadline by only 1 year will not cause undue hardship for the energy companies, but will have an environmental benefit by speeding up the recovery of sensitive places like the Adirondack Park. We applaud EPA's efforts to limit interstate trading as well. Since 2000, the Adirondack Council has advocated for action to limit New York's unused allowances from being sold to upwind utilities and sent back to us in the form of acid rain. In 2000, the Adirondack Council distributed this chart on the screen above me that depicts data from the GAO report, which talks about which states were buying and selling SO2 allowances. Green states like New York were selling their extra allowances, while red states like Ohio and Indiana were purchasers of excess credits from other states. In 2000, we persuaded the New York State Legislature to pass a law that created a financial disincentive for cleaner New York utilities when they sold their leftover SO2 allowances to upwind states. State Senator Carl Marcelino, Environmental Conservation Chair at the time, had this notable quote when he talked about the legislation. The state law was eventually overturned for violating the Interstate Commerce Clause, but it demonstrated the need to do something about upwind states buying our allowances. By limiting interstate trade and giving each state its own budget for pollution reductions based on their contributions to non-payment downwind areas, EPA has adequately addressed New York's concern that has been a problem for over a decade. With over 12 million allowances currently in the bank, it is apparent that our call for lower caps and ways to reduce the bank are needed immediately. By EPA creating a new scheme and not allowing Title IV SO2 allowances to be used as part of the program, you are rightly correcting a major flaw. In addition, we suggest you establish a discounted rate for bank NOx allowances, either at a 3-to-1 or 4-to-1 ratio. And finally, this will play.
Scott, we need to
Yeah. Okay. In conclusion, the Adirondack Council strongly supports the transport rule and commends the EPA for this action, but we believe more can and should be done to protect public health and the environment. We urge EPA to look for opportunities to implement the programs with even deeper reductions in nitrogen oxide emissions. Thank you for the opportunity to comment today.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Lorey, for augmenting this.